Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and if you're having chip problems, I feel bad for your son. I got 99 clone forces, a bad batch ain't one. Hit me. No, go on, actually hit me. Now, episode 7 is out worldwide on Disney+, and in this video, we're going to be breaking down all the Easter eggs, hidden details, and things you missed in the show. We'll of course be giving our crazy theories on where things could be going, as well as a review on the series, so make sure you stick around until the endor. Now, there will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check it out, then I'll see you doth later. Make sure you like the video if you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe to make sure I'll see you back. The next, me. Now, that was one of the worst ones we've ever done, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Okay, so in episode 6, we saw as the Bad Batch journeyed out to Corellia to take the head of a tactical droid in order to achieve info that would help them to defeat the clone troopers. They ended up running into some of the most beloved Star Wars characters of all time. But they weren't actually that bad, to be fair. And instead of taking the plans for themselves, the Batch left them in the capable hands of the uprising rebels. The episode ended with the Martez sisters reaching out to a mysterious contact, and I've been kicking myself for the last week about how I said it could have been Ahsoka, but the subtitles for the episode said it was a he. I also had a lot of comments saying that R7 was destroyed at the end of the Clone Wars, but we did see its shell there for a reason, and it was clearly kept, so I do think that it was fixed up and given to the sisters. For them to be so closely linked to Ahsoka, and for there to also be a droid called R7 that has the exact same colours, it just seems too much of a coincidence. Now, we'll talk about this later on in the video, but another important thing to bear in mind is that Wrecker's chip actually activated at one point in the episode. He said the words "good soldiers follow orders," which are synonymous with what the clones uttered during the aftermath of Order 66. If you cast your mind back to the Clone Wars, then you might remember that Ahsoka actually helped to find and take out Captain Rex's chip, and this idea of taking out the chips when the chips are down definitely plays into this entry. Now, episode 7 is called Battle Scars, which typically refers to a wound suffered in battle that serves as somewhat of a reminder. For example, people showcase their own battle scars when telling stories, and they're very much a reminder of what someone has been through. In the case of the Bad Batch, it's used to denote what's left behind after the chips are removed, and these scars serve as a reminder that the Bad Batch are now free. We pick up with them getting chased by some Rokai after stealing a rare and valuable lizard that we learn is called Ruby. Due to the hyperdrive not being online, they are unable to carry out a light speed jump, and this is similar to what happened to the Millennium Falcon during Empire. I actually like that it's just not easy to jump straight to light speed in order to solve problems, and they actually face some difficulties. One thing I did feel about the sequel trilogy is that they overused light speed quite a lot, and I actually find the scenes way more tense when they don't just have a get out of jail free card. Echo and Wrecker strap themselves in, and the lizard grabs onto Wrecker's head almost like a facehugger, which is another nod to Aliens. The Mandalorian 2 did something similar with Grogu, and throughout the series so far, there's been several callbacks to that franchise. They make the jump to light speed and go back to Sid's, who, as we guessed, has very much become their agent who sends them out on missions. I did say that I think she'll be this season's Grief Karga, and though he and Mando weren't on good terms for the majority of that first season, she's going to be here supplying them with jobs constantly to pay for the money that they owe her. Sid is clearly ripping them off and charging them overheads while sending them out on missions, making it so that it's going to be difficult for them to actually make enough to break away from her, and thus they're probably going to be stuck in this life for a while. Sid is a Trandoshan, which is the same species as Bosk, and as a whole, they're known as slippery characters. In the bar, we catch the Ithorian and Weequay again, and we can see they're playing Dejarik, which is the holo chess game that you probably saw in A New Hope. We heard that Wookiees were known for being bad losers when it came to this, and that they'd leave people pretty armless, like harmless, meaning they couldn't do anything. Now, a mysterious hooded figure has followed them to the bar, and shout out Simon A. Berman on Twitter for pointing out that this is very similar to how Aragorn was introduced in the Fellowship of the Rings. This is Captain Rex, who it turns out was the contact from last week. We last heard him name dropped in episode 2 when we discovered from Laquain that he'd passed through his home recently, and since the ending of Clone Wars, he's left Ahsoka's side. I'm guessing that he fixed up R7 and gave it to the Martez sisters, but again, that's just me making assumptions, and you should never assume, as it makes an ass out of you and me. Now, he's approached by the two regulars, and this is somewhat similar to when Dr. Cornelius Everzan and Babas started a fight with Luke that left the latter pretty armless, eh? See, the jokes are good. Now we also hear of a brand new snack called Mantell Mix, which is named after the planet Ord Mantell. This is served by an alien that Simon says could be from Pantora, which was the home of Baron Papanoida. Interestingly, this character was actually played by George Lucas in a cameo role, and whether the species is the same or not, I still think that's a nice little bit of trivia for your bitch ass. Now Sid says she's got a big job for them, one that will make things right from them letting go of the tactical droid last week. She never actually tells them what it is, but we do know that coming down the line there'll be something they can do that basically sets them up for life and means they can evade the Empire forever. Rex takes his hood off in a scene that echoes when Obi-Wan did it in A New Hope. Luke has also done something similar when reintroducing himself, and again, it's like poetry, they rhyme. I think this dress may have been inspired by Ahsoka, who the last we saw of her was wearing something similar to what he does here. At several points in the scene, we catch the scar where Rex's chip was removed, and this plays massively into the events that unfold. We learn he's been keeping a low profile, and that he's actually listed as KIA in the Imperial files. Now we do know what happens to the character due to his appearance and later properties, and I love how they've sort of retconned him into being one of the soldiers in Return of the Jedi. Rex is a great character, and I hope that we get more of him in the series. When Wrecker walks in, we can also catch a digital version of Sabacc to the left of the screen, and this card game is infamous throughout Star Wars lore. Rex tells Omega he's never met a clone like her before, and this further hints towards something being different about her. After Wrecker's head plays up, he becomes worried that they haven't removed their chips, and it's so dangerous he's willing to kill them on the off chance that they could activate. Rex's chip obviously activated during the Clone Wars, and he almost killed his closest ally because of it. He goes off to Bracca to find out a way to remove theirs, and this is a junkyard planet where ships are sent to be decommissioned. If you've played Jedi Fallen Order, you will no doubt recognise the planet as the place that Cal Kestis worked at when lying low from the Imperials. He was part of the Scrapper Guild, who we learn now operate in the area. Omega confirms that she hasn't got a chip in her head, and once more this puts her above the typical grunt. Now one thing I forgot to mention last week is that the Empire actually decommissioned the entire droid army in order to use the scraps to build new ships and fleets. Bracca is more of a starship graveyard, and inside one of the downed cruisers they go to a medical facility in order to remove the chips. However, it's not as easy as it seems, and within the water we get our second Lord of the Rings reference with a giant creature lurking beneath it, similar to the Watcher outside the Mines of Moria. Wrecker refuses to cross the cable over a gorge at one point, further tying into his fear of heights, and after the rope snaps he gets pulled in by the creature. I love how this rope is yellow, as typically it's a colour used in games to denote the way forward, and with this being a location that people have played on, it's like poetry. I don't even know if they do anymore now. If you turn on the subtitles, you'll see that this beast is a Dianoga, which you'll probably know as the thing that grabbed Luke in the Death Star. It was also a boss in Shadows of the Empire, and these creatures tend to live on board ships in their trash compactors, explaining its appearance here. There's a mention of Kala, as well as Caleb Dune from Episode 1, who would later go on to be one of the key characters in Rebels. We see a space rat, and Omega worries that the surgery won't go well. This might hint towards her being able to sense the incoming danger, and Wrecker activates and starts to go full clone trooper on them. He calls them traitors and chases them throughout the hull of the ship, attempting to murder them for standing up to the Empire. It's a great, extremely tense scene, and you can see that they are using stun blasts on him, but you should have done that first. Now Omega shoots at him, and I kinda thought that the stance she took looked a lot like Ripley in Aliens, but might just be seeing similarities for the sake of it there. Either way, this sets off Wrecker and he chases her through the corridors, but she's able to outmaneuver him. The homie Simon pointed out that this is a direct opposite to the start of the entry, when the pair were just having fun with one another. Omega doesn't want to hurt Wrecker, and he grabs the gun off her before saying good soldiers follow orders, which again is something that the clones uttered upon carrying out Order 66. Wrecker is stunned and the chip is removed, but it takes a while for him to gain consciousness. I was kinda hoping that in the series he would come across Ahsoka and then have her activate, but unfortunately it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and it's going to just be a fan theory that I've failed to get right. However, this clearly shows they can remove the chip from Crosshair, and I think that when they go to do this, they'll probably knock him out beforehand so that the same thing doesn't happen. The show is very much about free will versus conformity, and giving Wrecker free will here shows that he's now become a better person. The chips are taken out of them and bandages are put over the wounds, which all line up exactly with where Rex's battle score was. Wrecker said he had no choice and tried to make it stop but couldn't, but Omega says it's okay and gives him some Mantel mix. Rex and Hunter go and get some air, and the former tries to recruit them, but he says that he has to do what's best for his squad. Rex leaves, but Hunter says he'll be there if they're ever in trouble, so we can expect to see him again. Unfortunately, the Scrapper Guild sees them, and they notify the Empire. I think that next time potentially Crosshair will arrive, and that they will capture him and take his chip out. It's going to be difficult for them to escape the planet, and who knows, they might even include Cal and have him help the group out. Either way, really fun entry, and lots to look forward to for the mid-season episode. Now, as for my thoughts on the show so far, I know it's getting a bit of a lukewarm reception like a Tauntaun, but I'm still really enjoying it. I think the best way that I describe the show is that it's solid. Now, what I mean by that is you very much know what you're getting week to week, and though I don't think it's absolutely mind-blowing all the time, it's a really nice side tangent into the Star Wars universe. I really wish that we were getting more Crosshair stuff, as he's probably the most interesting character for me in the show, and that's purely because with him, we're seeing the rise of the Empire through the eyes of a soldier working within its ranks. This is completely unexplored, and though we have seen people uprising against the Empire on the outside of it, we've not really seen the day-to-day workings of it through someone who's internally part of the organisation. I think there's potential there for an amazing character study on someone who's gone from fighting for what was essentially freedom to becoming someone who has to oppress others in order to keep them in line. The Batch hardly seem to even be bothered about saving him, and it does sort of dampen the brotherhood that they have when he's been so easy to forget. Now, we still have 9 episodes left in the season, so there is plenty of time to explore that more. I just hope that they get around to it. As for this one, again, another solid addition that I think just keeps building the show as something worth coming back for each and every week. It's a wrap on the video, but I'd of course love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. As a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize draw on the 30th of June, in which we're giving away 3 copies of the MCU Phase 3 box set. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the first episode of Loki, which will be linked on screen right now. We went over the entire show and pointed out all the Easter eggs that you need to know about it, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. That out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and the Force will be with you always. Take care, peace.